Hey guys, Abner Miranda here. Today I've got a video that I have been, honestly, I've been dreading doing for a while, but I think it needs to be done now. As you guys know, I make notations in my phone from time to time, and there are two notations that I've just kind of kept pushing further down the list, and they actually kind of coincide with one another. The first one says, why I am seriously considering not renewing my carry permit. I'll get to that in a second. And the other one is the night that dispatch told me that the driver had a carry permit. That one, we'll start there. This was, 2010, I think. Something like that, 2010, I believe. I was on patrol. One of our officers, one of our new officers, who had finally cleared FTO, called a traffic stop, and I zipped on down as his backup officer. I pulled up, got out, stood at the cover officer position at the rear of the car. He came up, made contact at the B post. I'm standing there and dispatch says, I forget his call sign. Mine was Signal 12, and he said, and dispatch says, Signal 12 is your radio secure. And I thought, well, that's not good. That typically means the driver has a warrant. And I used to have a FreeLink system that uses near magnetic field induction, so it's totally wireless. And I'm sure they're probably commonplace now, but in 2010 they were still fairly new technology. So anyways, I reached up and I go, Signal 12, that's correct, go ahead. And they go, I forget the guy's name, so Mr. Smith. They go, Mr. Smith has a carry permit. As she said that, I remember going, who flipping cares? Just as I was thinking that thought, I watched in complete horror as my fellow officer draws his sidearm, backs up, and tells the driver to keep his hands where he can see him. And the driver is doing this. And I look at the kid and I go, holster your weapon. He's got a carry permit. And I'm like, so I call the officer back, which was totally out of line for me, okay? I'm going to admit it, totally out of line for me. I call the officer back, and he tells the driver, I'll be right back. And the driver is like, okay, and he's got his hands out the window. And the officer comes to the left side of the truck, I'm on the right. And I said, what are you doing? He said he's got a carry permit. I said, yeah, I know. Why'd you draw? Because there's probably a gun in the car. I'm like, so? Yeah, but he's got a carry permit. And I go, cut this guy loose. And he looks at me and I go, holster your weapon and cut this guy loose. So amazingly, he actually did what I told him. So he cuts the guy loose. I said, meet me in the pharmacy parking lot. So we go over to CVS, and I wanted to go down one road. And I thought, let me go at this gently. And I very bluntly said, how many ditches have you dug? Before you became a police officer, how many ditches did you dig? And he looked at me and I go, how many burgers did you flip? How much drywall did you hang? How many shingles did you lay? And he's just staring at me like he's clueless, like where I'm going. And I'm sure that some of you out there are going, what the heck is Abner doing? Okay, let me be very, very clear. And by the way, I called dispatch. Let me say this before I carry on. I called dispatch. And I said to the dispatcher, I said, why did you tell us that this guy had a carry permit? Well, because I wanted you to know there might be a gun in the car. I go, you understand that law-abiding citizens are the only people that get carry permits. So the fact that a law-abiding citizen has a gun in the car is completely irrelevant to me because he or she is a law-abiding citizen. So if they happen to have a sidearm in the car, I frankly don't care because they're a law-abiding citizen. Because they went through the effort to go to the stupid class, to do all the paperwork, to pay their fee, to get their carry permit. Background check too, let's not forget that part. Background check to get a carry permit. They are not my problem. And the dispatcher actually said to me, oh my goodness, she said, well, you know what we really need is, we need to know when the criminals have guns. And I was like, duh, that's what we're here for. We're the cops. Can you tell this gets me worked up? I said to her, the law-abiding citizen is not the problem. Do not tell me when the law-abiding citizen has a carry permit. I frankly don't care. Don't care. Getting back to the officer. By the way, guys, I don't know if it's changed, but that is pretty standard now. You get pulled over, they're telling the cop you got a carry permit. You may or may not get a gun in your face. You may or may not be ordered to pull your gun out. You think I'm going to reach for a sidearm? Please. So the officer looks at me befuddled when I asked him all these questions about how many shingles have you laid, how much drywall have you hung. And I said to him, the fact that dispatch told you that a citizen had a carry permit is irrelevant. The citizen is not the problem. The criminal is. You'll never know if the criminal has a sidearm because dispatch can't tell you because criminals don't get carry permits. So the reason that I asked him all these things is, I said, I'm not sure you understand that wearing that shield and that uniform is a privilege. You are a public servant. You are not Judge Dredd. It is your job to enforce the law, not harass people. Be respectful to all those you come in contact with. And for goodness sakes, don't go drawing guns on people because dispatch told you that they have a carry permit. And the bigger reason why I'd asked him all these things about different jobs was, first of all, because I knew he was 20 years old. Secondly, because I have a rule, had a rule, I'm not a cop anymore, had a rule that if I ever walked up on a vehicle and I saw drywall dust on that dude's jeans, and I don't mean like a little bit of dust, I mean drywall dust, I automatically was going to let that person go. If it was just a speeding violation and they weren't like heinously over, I was going to run their DL only because you're required to. Once you do a stop, you're required to run the DL. It's irresponsible to not run the DL as a cop once you've made a stop because you might accidentally let a felon go. So you really have to run the DL. I would say to the driver, I'm going to run your DL. If it comes back clean, you're on your way. And sure enough, to my word, I'd come back up, hand him the DL, and I'd say, God bless you, have a nice day. And I'd let him go. It's a sign of respect, people. It's treat people with respect. The point behind this video, which is why this is becoming a real source of irritation to me, is we are seeing our government becoming more and more tyrannical. We are seeing practices and procedures being set in place that are becoming more and more tyrannical toward the populace. And it dawned on me the other day that when you go and you get your carry permit as a private citizen, you have essentially registered yourself. See, here in Tennessee, we don't have to register our firearms. As an FFL, when someone comes to me and buys a firearm, I do their paperwork. Their paperwork stays in my file cabinet. It doesn't get mailed to anybody. Their background form physically stays in my file cabinet locked for I forget how many years, 15, 20 years, I forget what it is. But the joke behind that is, well, the government really doesn't know what you bought. Sure, they know what you bought because I entered it in the computer to run your background check. I mean, stop acting like they don't know what you bought. They know what you bought. More simply, if you buy a sidearm out of the newspaper, or your friend knows a friend who's got a gun for sale, and you're like, yeah, cool, man, $500, boom, you trade. It's perfectly legal to do in Tennessee. I believe that it should remain that way, that it should not require a background check for an individual to buy a firearm from an individual. Yeah, that means that a criminal may buy a gun from another individual, but I would much prefer that the private citizens have the ability to do the same exact thing. Because remember, no matter what laws get passed, the criminals will always do what the criminals will do anyways. The reason that I say I am, because of my experiences as a police officer, because of seeing the abuses of power, because guys, it's not really power, it's just allowances. The abuses of perceived power toward the populace is making me, for the first time ever, actually go, you know what? If you get your carry permit, you have essentially registered yourself with the government. And yeah, your carry permit doesn't say, well, this is what I have and this is what I carry. No, but your carry permit, if you get a carry permit, you've essentially said to the government, I am a firearms owner. You haven't told the government how many firearms you have, but honestly, that's irrelevant. If you are a carry permit holder, you are essentially saying, I am a gun owner, and you have registered yourself. Think about that. As always, I thank you guys for watching. God bless you all. Get those guns out in practice. Have a good one.